All right, Magic Makers, it has been a minute since I've done one of these Friday podcasts, and I apologize. Actually, no, I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to let you know what I was doing. I was on vacation for 2 weeks, and typically, I work for myself. So typically, vacation for me isn't a vacation. And this year I said, you know what? I'm going to take a vacation and I'm only really just going to get done the things that really need to get done. I need to get back to my clients once a week when they check in with me. Um, so I told myself that I was only going to work out. I was only going to work 2 hours a day and I was going to stop working at noon. So whatever I did by noontime, it was vacation time. I was not going to work on weekends. It was a Monday through Friday thing. And that's what I did. And it felt amazing. And so what that meant was I didn't get an opportunity to do one of these podcasts, and that's okay. Right. I felt guilty. I was like, oh my God, I told myself, and now I'm disappointing myself. And I was like, no, I'm giving myself permission to rest. I'm getting myself permission to take time off. So that's why I didn't do that. And it's okay. So back to regularly scheduled programming. So today I wanted to talk about letting go of the how. And I bring this up because, one of my clients, she's really struggling with, she's got this goal in her head. She's like, this is the goal I want. And this is how it has to be. And I'm like, okay, but are you open to another possibility? And she's like, no, this is just how it has to go. I know my body. And I'm like, okay. And as a coach, I I want to meet her where she is. And so for me, I'm like, okay, let's do it your way. Let's let's do it your way, but also start to present these seeds because her feelings are valid, right? And I recognize these feelings because that's the feelings I had. That's the feeling other clients have had because we are control freaks, right? Raise your hand if you are nodding along because you are a control freak. And so for us, we feel like if I had past success doing it this way, that means I'm going to get future success doing it this way. And for most things, that works, right? However, one of the things I've learned in doing this for almost 20 years is that there are always nuances that come up, right? Our bodies, I wish, were absolute. I wish our bodies were like mowing our lawn, right? You go out and you set the lawnmower at a certain blade height, you mow your lawn, and you're gonna have a beautiful lawn. You go out there, you water, you're gonna have a beautiful lawn. Unfortunately, our bodies are highly adaptable and reactive, right? So unless we are living our lives in a petri dish, that's not how our bodies work, right? Our bodies are, I want to think about now, many of us in the US at this time of this recording are in a drought, right? So I don't know about you, but my plants ain't thriving right now. They are like, girl, it's hot. I'm trying to hang on by a thread, right? So that's putting stress on it. You know, in my town, we are having a limited watering. So that's putting so they're under stress because the heat just blazing down on them. They're under another piece of stress because I can't give them the amount of fuel that they so if they want. My town is under a water like restricted water ban, right? So just like you, we all kind of face different things in our life as we go through. So even though it might have worked in the past a certain way, we got to look at the variables that we have faced in front of us. And, life always throws us a curveball. So, for many of my clients, some of them, they started working with me and they were like 30 something years old and they never dieted. So they got amazing results. And then we started to shift and now we have kids and now we're in our 40s and what we did in our 30s isn't going to work anymore because I don't have the time, nor do I want to commit the time to what it took there. So there's a quote by Steve Maraboli, and it says, "Letting go of the how, you must learn to let go and release stress because you're never in control." Right? We're never in control. On my check-in form, I have a, what went well this week, and then I have, this, all the things, and then I have a category called life, right? Because we all have some weeks that life just comes at us fast, and you don't anticipate it. So for many of us, to let go of the how, that means you're surrendering, right? And surrendering is really hard. And I'm going to talk a little woo today, and it's for some of you. I don't really. I think I do sprinkle in some woo, but it was me embracing my woo that really helped me to break up with my black or white thinking. My black and white thinking was go big or go home. That I had to hustle, I had to grind. Everything had to be hard. Everything had to be a struggle. If I wasn't bleeding from my eyes, I wasn't worthy of achieving my goal. And at some point, I was just like, I'm so fucking sick of this. I'm done, uncle. And I don't know how many of you that, like, when I was competing, I would get ready for a show and I would just grind and hustle my way to it. And by the time I finished the show, I was so, deprived, disillusioned, all the D's, that I would take a month off from the gym because I just couldn't, because I just did so much crazy shit to get ready for the show. And that was unhealthy, completely unhealthy. And so, after doing that for several years, I was like, and not listening to what my coach said, I then started to realize there had to be another way, right? I had to surrender. I had to surrender to where I am. I had to surrender to that. It's a process. I had to surrender. I had to surrender that I needed to do things differently. I could do things differently, and there was a different way that didn't require me to always feel like I had to push, hustle, and grind and get my way there. So I had to surrender, right? I had to surrender to that. And when you surrender, you accept what is, and you begin to see things a little clearer, right? You're not so fixated on, like, you don't have your blinders on. It's like, this is how it has to be. This is how it has to be. And if it's not like this, I'm not going to get my goal. Like, I needed to just let go, right? And so that's when I started to have more open conversations with my coach, right? I started to not be like, you told me to eat this, but I'm gonna, like, cut that in half, or I'm gonna cut that in third. It was like, okay, you know what? I can't anymore. I'm uncle, and so maybe I should try it this way. Because at this point, I have nothing to lose, and more to gain was my sanity. So I started to see things a little clearer, and I started, like, my energy started to shift a little bit more. And at this time was when I, first started thinking about journaling, and the whole concept of mindset first came in, because it's like, when I started in this industry, it was like, do it my way or the highway, right? That was the coaching vernacular for pretty much anyone you worked with. And then I started kind of having to, like, I was very black and white with my thinking. It was like, you do this, you get X result. Do this, get X result. And when I was no longer getting that, that was frustrating. That was so, so frustrating for me. And so I happened to be working with a mindset coach at the time, and she asked me to journal. And I was like, journal, right? Dear diary. It was like, it just, I flashed back to, like, 16-year-old kid, like, dear diary, I was waiting for Jimmy at his locker and he walked by and didn't say hi. What does that mean? Like, no, that's not what journaling is. Journaling is more just like, ask yourself better questions. I'm all about my boyfriend, and my boyfriend, Tony Robbins, he says, if I ask myself better questions, I get better results. And so with the coach at the time, she said, okay, Kim, I want you to journal. And she goes, set a timer for 5 minutes. And even if you write, I hate this, this sucks, she's like, just do it. Right. So I did. And I was like, all right, I was like, I'm paying you to help me get to a different place. And so I'm going to give it a shot. And I wanted to prove her wrong. I really wanted to just prove her ass wrong. Well, here I am 10 years later, still freaking journaling. Right. And so I always ask a lot of my clients to journal, give it a try. And one of my clients said to me, she's like, Kim, I don't journal because I don't like to rehash the past. And I was like, interesting, right? I had never heard that before. And I love when people, like, come back to me with a different perspective, because it just makes, for me personally, makes me a better coach. And so I said, well, can we reframe that? Can we not think of journaling as a rehash of the past, but more of a reflection, like, so it's like if I said to myself, if I went through my day and I said, how could I have done this differently, right? If maybe things didn't go my way that day, and I'm like, how could I have done it differently? And could be like, what? If I get out of bed 5 minutes earlier, I wouldn't have been speeding to work. If I got out of bed 5 minutes earlier, I could have made a better breakfast, like than just popping toast in the toaster, right? So it's like it's more. I look at journaling as more of some days it's a reflection. Some days it's like, what do I want, right? And I think for many of us, we don't ever stop and ask ourselves that question: what the hell do you want? Or ask yourself, what brings me joy? And when I was on vacation, had a lot of downtime, a lot of thinking time, and for me, it was I wanted more space. COVID taught me about space because they were like, go home. And at the time, I was teaching classes 5 days a week. 3 out of the 5 days, I was literally teaching at noontime, only having a few hours at in between, and then going back and teaching at night. And I was like, you know what? I could get used to having more days at home where I'm able to focus in on the things that I want to focus in on. Yeah, I love teaching classes, but like it disrupts my flow. Like I'm a slow burner. Like, if as soon as I get an idea, I want to like sit down and just like get it going versus I get the idea going and I'm like, oh crap, I got to go teach class. And then like I lose the thought, I lose my momentum. So as I was reflecting, I was like, I want to have more space again. I've created space, but I'm like, you know what? I can do with more space. And so here's where I want you to ask, like, do you even know what you want? Do you even know what you're trying to steer your bus towards? Is there a quantifiable goal for this? Right. And then ask yourself this ultimate question: what happens if I let go? What happens? Right. What if I'm like, Jesus, take the wheel? Like, what happens? And this is where, this is where I had to stop trying to steer the bus. Like when I was trying to steer the bus, I was trying to steer the bus with how my body looked. I was trying to steer the bus with how my business looked. I was trying to steer the bus with how my relationship looked. I was trying to steer every gosh darn aspect of my life. And that's when I really like this woman. And she was on my podcast, and she was instrumental to helping me shift out of my black and white thinking. Was that, the thought is what's meant for you will not pass you by, right? So anytime I feel like I'm behind, anytime I feel like something should be happening, I should be doing something different, I pause and I'm like, you know what? What's meant for me won't pass me by. And then the other thought is that, what if it looks different? In your head, you're like, this is how it should look, right? It's, wrapped up in a bow, it's a blue bow in a green box, and this is how it's supposed to be. But what if it comes to you differently? And that concept, I was like, I don't know what you're trying to, I'm like, I have no idea what you're trying to say to me. Like that was just like so like such a this like kind of like pie in the sky thought process for me. And so she made me read this book called E Squared, and I'll put a link in the notes. So it's a book called E Squared, and it's basically how do you start to kind of like use your mind to bring forth what you want to bring into the world. And it's like thinking differently, thinking instead of you saying this is how it has to be, like so let's use weight loss because that's many of you follow me for weight loss. So it's like in order for me to lose weight, I have to exercise more and eat less, right? I can only eat chicken, broccoli, brown rice, or sweet potatoes. I need to go to the gym a certain amount of time. That is the only way I'm going to get results, right? So that's the how, right? Because maybe in the past you did that and it worked like a charm. Gotcha. That was me, right? Everything had to look a certain way. So then in the E3 book, one of the first experiments that she had us do was she talked about just in your mind's eye, seeing what you want, right? So being crystal clear about this is what I want, and just letting go of how it's going to happen. Just like, this is what I want, and just visualizing your goal. Like, this is what I want. This is what I want. And just letting your mind just picture what you want. So in the book, it was picture it was picture yellow butterflies and purple feathers, right? That was what you're supposed to picture. I'm like, all right. So at the time, it was February in Boston, and I was like, I'm going to see some yellow butterflies in freaking February. Are you kidding me? So, I'm like, all right. So I go on about my day. And then all of a sudden, this is probably maybe a week or two go by. I'm watching TV and it's a commercial. Freaking yellow butterflies fly across the screen. And I was like, holy shit. Right? I let go because I let go of how it had to be. Right? I let go of that. That was just like really crazy town for me. Um, the other thing of just, making decisions, right? I was trying to decide if I should work with my current functional doctor. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I've kicked so many rocks on the road. I've kissed so many frogs, and they have not turned into princesses. So I said, okay, if I see a peacock, I should work with her. Well, sweet Georgia Brown, I go to Vegas for work, and we're walking through the Bellagio, and in the Bellagio every season they change. They have this like beautiful like flower display of whatever, and it just takes over like a whole big area, and it's just freaking stunning. And I remember I told you, I said peacocks. I walk in, the whole display is freaking peacocks, and I was like, holy shit. Right? So it was me letting go, right? It was me just saying, you know what? I'm going to throw it out to the universe because I believe the universe knows better than me. The universe has better guidance than I have, right? So that was the first experiment, as I mentioned, of me just saying, you know what? I have to surrender and just let it go. I have to say, you know what? There's something bigger than me than I know. And when I let go, then I am able to grow. I'm able to move into my, I don't know if it's my higher purpose. I don't know what the right terminology is for it, but that's what I'm taking away. So I'm going to give you the last three things here. So one of my biggest kind of like mindset mentors, her name is Rachel Luna, and she's like, when you let go of the how, right? When you let go of the how and you stop steering, you're finally committed to facilitating growth. And in order to facilitate growth, if we draw three intersecting circles, right? So one circle is we have to get uncomfortable, right? So that, and I know that I've said this multiple times, like in order to see a change, I have to make a change. And to make a change, it is going to feel hard. It's going to feel squishy. It's going to feel like, oh my God, I want to turn back. That's what being uncomfortable feels like. And it's okay, right? It's okay because I know that, especially if you're working with a coach, they're guiding you down a path that you want to go through. They're just helping you see the shortcuts, right? Think about it as a maze. And you can go round and round and round and round the maze, or as a coach, my job is like, you know what? Follow me. I'm going to help you avoid the dead ends, and I'm going to help you get through this maze a lot faster than if you did it on your own. But that requires you to get a little uncomfortable. It requires you that we're probably not going to do some of the stuff that you're used to doing. And we might do some of the same stuff, but we might do it a little bit differently. We might do it a little differently than what you've done in the past. The third piece of that, big circle that we talked about is like knowing it's okay to change, right? Knowing that if I do say what I want to, if I do tell myself this is what I want, I do want to lose the weight for good and never play this yo-yo game. I do want to add muscle to my body. I do want to sleep better. I do want to have more energy. I want to reduce my craving. I don't want to have any damn belly fat on me anymore. Knowing that it's okay to change, because in order to get to the parts of that I don't want anymore, I got to accept that it's okay to make some changes. Because if I keep holding on, keep doing the same thing that I do, I'm always going to get what I got. And if you love what you got, rock on with your bad self. But if you don't love what you got, then here's where we got to start to really go back to that other circle of getting uncomfortable. Then the last piece here is committing to unlearning and unbecoming who you are right now. And this is where I think to think about like that whole butterfly quote, right? You know, like you are in a cocoon right now, and the cocoon feels amazing. And you know, and you went and you ate. It's a caterpillar. You went and you ate all these leaves, and it was just fabulous, and it was just lovely. And then it came cocoon time. So right now you're in that cocoon, and now you're starting in that unlearning. You're unbecoming a caterpillar, and you're starting to grow into your next phase. You're starting to transform into your next phase of being this beautiful butterfly. Not that you weren't a beautiful caterpillar. Now you're like, you know, that the caterpillar was your before, and the butterfly is your after. So here's where, you know, you have to ask yourself, like, if you're content being a caterpillar, awesome. Right? Be a caterpillar all night long. But if you're like, you desire to be a butterfly, then we got to go back to like letting go of the how, being led through that maze, and feeling secure and safe that it's okay to change, that you know you're not going to fall off a cliff, and feel supported, right? You know, that's for me as a coach. Like I always say to people, like I don't like I will never chastise my client. Like you weren't compliant with something, or you couldn't get something done. I'm never going to be like, shame on you. It's going to be like, all right, what's going on? Because maybe what I gave you was a little bit too hard right now. Maybe I'm pushing too hard, because I'm a pusher. I am a pusher, right? Because I'm like a pit bull. Like you tell me your goal, it becomes my goal. And I'm like, all right, let's get there. How do we get there? How do we get there? How do we just push, push, push and go, go, go? Where some of you might be like, I need to take baby steps. Okay, I'm going to present the path, and I'm going to ask you, what are you willing to change? Where are you now? And so that way, if you keep asking me like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I'm going to be like, here's the path. Get on the path, because the path doesn't change. It's just a matter of how the pace we take on that path. All right, ladies, I've given you a lot of food for thought, but the biggest thing I want you to take away with is control, right? So control, ultimately this podcast comes down to control. And we try to control every darn thing. We try to control every darn thing of our lives. So here's what the control piece comes. Draw another three circles. And it's the sphere of control. So I have one sphere. This is what I totally control, right? Everything in that circle is like, this is all the things I know I totally control. Next sphere, things I have a little bit of control over, right? And then you have the big sphere, things I don't have any control over. And this kind of helps you to kind of put things into perspective, right? You know, and I'll leave you with this last thing. So, you know, I have a client and she's like, oh gosh, I really want to lose the weight. I really want to lose the weight. Great. Awesome. Let's do it. And so I look at her and, you know, she in her mind tells herself that, you know, when we first worked together, she's like, she was at the gym 2 days a week. She was eating 5 meals a day and everything was fabulous and she was losing the weight. And I said, great. I said, so now let's look at that sphere of control. And I said, how much control of your time do you have right now? Right? Because when I started working with her, she was 27 years old and now she's got 3 kids. So if we look at time, how much time do you control? And she's like, I probably can do about 40 minutes at the gym. Okay. So then we have to change the type of workouts that you do. But she's like, but if I'm not at the gym for 90 minutes, am I going to get the results? And I was like, you'll still get the results. It's not going to be as fast as you want them, but you're still going to get the results because now we have to be more focused on our time. We're not going to be spreading out body parts, right? If I'm only having 3 days at the gym, then we need to make those 3 days as impactful as they possibly can so that we're working multiple body parts at the same time for multiple days, right? So that maybe we're hitting our biceps 2 times versus 1 time in a week. You know, we're having 1 day devoted to, you know, most people's most stubborn part of their body are your legs, right? So we're focusing on our legs, but on those other 2 days, we're hitting your legs as well, not as heavy as we would on that 3rd day. So as we go through, like think about, like, we tell ourselves this is what it has to be, but if I look at that sphere of control and I don't have a lot of control over my time, then I have to start to like adjust. And then I have to adjust my expectations as a client, as a coach. That's one of my biggest challenges is that expectation management that, we want, it's Amazon Prime, right? I woke up on Monday, said, this is the body I want. Why isn't it here by Friday? Right? I wish, right? I wish it was Amazon Prime, but it is not. So here's where we have to kind of start to like see what we want and have faith that the steps that we're taking on a consistent basis are going to come to us. So I would love to hear how this is landing with you. Shoot me, you can always find me, shoot me an email, hello@kimbarnesjefferson.com. You can always find me on the socials, Kim Jefferson Coach on Instagram, as well as on Facebook. All right, ladies, have a fabulous Friday, and I will definitely talk to you next week.